Big Finish just hit 20 years old, which is fitting because I swear they've released about 20,000 audio plays. That's a lot to filter through. I get it, I understand how daunting the audio stories must seem as an outsider, but don't be put off. There's not actually that many stories that require a prerequisite to listening. Today I'm going to list 20 of the best, my personal picks. I've spoken about a lot of these before, but this is for beginners. Nearly all of these are good first picks, and if they're not, I will list so and the reading order alongside. Let's speed round it, let's go! Number 1, Scherzo. Maybe the greatest classic Who story ever written. Horrifying and thorough a character study, looking into why the Doctor takes human companions in the first place. Is it a parasitic or a symbiotic relationship? And just how much can we trust this Doctor guy anyway? Could only be done in audio. Dark, scary, surreal. Echoes of War. Top survival story on a time-ravaged planet that just happens to have a cute Dalek as an ally, but his memories are coming back, and fast. Angel of Scutari. Pure historical that manages to be one of the most engrossing dramas I've ever heard from Doctor Who. Proof that the show doesn't need sci-fi elements at every twist and turn. The acting from a scared Seven and a vulnerable Hex make this a must-listen. I'd recommend Enemy of the Daleks beforehand, but mostly because that's also a really good story. Only the Monstrous. It's a Doctor Who blockbuster, dynamic, enormous, long. Across 3 discs you will be engrossed in the most ambitious Time War story you've ever heard. 1 part an isolated western, 2nd part an assassination mission, and part 3 some of the most iconic Dalek material ever. The Chimes of Midnight. It's Robert Shearman. What more needs to be said? Get underneath the covers, turn out the lights, and lose your mind. Legend of the Cybermen, where Cybermen invade fiction and convert mermaids. This one's part of a trilogy, and I recommend all of them, so it's a bit of a cheat. We Are the Daleks. Daleks enter the free market and approach a Thatcher-era Britain with a business proposition. You can probably guess where that goes. In a shocking twist, Daleks embody all kinds of fascism. Sorry, Bolstrak. Rat Trap. Grim and genius. A hive of abused altered rats present a more twisted threat than any Dalek story. Genuinely murky, scary stuff. Trouble in Paradise. Hey, just a reminder that Christopher Columbus and your approach to whole time travel as a whole is whack, doc. This one's part of the Destiny of the Doctor box set, but it is just a standalone story, if you're fine with Matt Smith interrupting the plot. The Reaping. The audio story that single-handedly saved Perry Brown as a companion. It's so refreshing to hear the main 2 cast actually argue from a familiar, friendly place. It's more like 12 and Clara than just needless JNT bitching. This story covers some serious ground, and by the end of it, you feel like the characters have crossed the distance of an entire season. Sword of the Chevalier. It's just 2006 all over again, baby. Hey, actually, pick any of these titles. They're all good. Except for that one. The Other Side, a rare Adam Mitchell story set in between The Long Game and Adam's departure. Trying to return him home, a grumpy Eccleston has to contend with a temporal tsunami and a disturbance coming from a local old cinema. Max Warp, a not-so-subtle parody of Jeremy Clarkson and other such reactionary types that sadly rings just as true over 10 years later. A murder mystery with the Top Gear crew is a joy, especially when they get offed. Heroes of Sontar. Nothing beats cute Sontarans trying to be serious business. This one mostly works because it shows how a huge cast can work in the classic Who format. Death and the Queen. Some years away from the role bring a new type of 10th Doctor, whilst Donna Noble feels like she never even left. Best TARDIS team in a comedy story that is just perfect beat by beat. Funniest story ever made. The Silver Turk. Sounds like modern Doctor Who is about to rip this one off, but Mary Shelley makes for one of the most underrated, criminally short-lived companions ever. Beautiful and gothic atmosphere piece. The Mondasian Cybermen blend seamlessly into this Frankenstein Victorian house of horrors. Great, small-scale story. 100 BC, Evelyn and the Doctor enter a mind game that could interfere with all of human history. The best stories, I find, are ones that make you wonder why this premise has never been done before. Does the Doctor know more about time travel than he lets on? Davros. Baker and Malloy proving that they have mastered their respective characters in a comedy story about Holocaust denial? It's this story that I specifically recommend to newcomers who might have some passing familiarity with the Revival series. In short, if you know who Davros is, you're in for a good time. A Death in the Family, not a good starter one. 3 different character arcs converge and pay off in the most satisfying finale possible. Ace proves herself like no other companion ever has, and the Doctor loses to the most imaginative and fun villain you've ever heard. The Hex arc is a nightmare, but it doesn't get much better than this. Forever Fallen, somebody actually takes the Doctor up on their offer of redemption and quickly grows to regret it over the years. But the Doctor's playing the long game. Simply perfect. Big Finish, hire Joshua Winisco more please. This story is great and completely free on the Big Finish website. Walls of Confinement, on the other hand, is only available in this collection short trips volume, but it's still worth it. All of these short trips are great, but Walls of Confinement adds so much depth and insight to the proud, lost Third Doctor in exile. It's perfect short-form storytelling that never loses focus on character. Also, John Pertwee goes to the zoo and fights a tiger. And finally, Zagreus. Like a series arc became sentient and ate the narrative. A truly unique, surrealist experience where up is down and you can't ever wake up. Now, as I've joked before, Zagreus might just be the single worst pick for a new listener. On the cover, it looks like a great season finale, event multi-Doctor story. And it's not even that, really. I picked this up as a kid and I was really disappointed. But that's what happens when you dive into the season finale of anything, dum-dum. My 11-year-old brain also was not ready for Zagreus, so maybe that's a good thing. There's lots of Big Finish, but people, myself included, do big it up too much. It's a strange, boundary-pushing listen, but continuity-wise, it's easy. Just follow the Charlie arc. Just the 8th Doctor adventures from the original main range in order. It's on Wikipedia, it's on the timescales. When it comes to listening order, it couldn't be more easy. Just respect the chronology that it comes out in. I mean, you wouldn't watch Series 6 before you watch Series 5. That would be weird. The freedom of Big Finish and also the complexity is that you can jump in wherever you want to. There are so many jumping on points, and if you want to get really engrossed in an arc with payoffs, just pick a companion. On Spotify, you can actually stream the first 50 audio plays for absolutely free. If I haven't, someone tell me off. But even within these first 50 plays, there are some real gems, including some new companions. Charlie, Hex, Lucy, Lucy Miller, her whole first series is on there. Blood of the Daleks is designed to get viewers from the new series into the old series sensibilities. It's perfect for newbies. But then I would also say Storm Warning is. The Charlie arc, as you can see on the screen right now, is the option for you if you want a free experience to see just how different and experimental Doctor Who can be pushed. The Hex arc is a little bit tricky, but again, just stick to the chronology. This guy shows up in like the 3rd story of his own arc. But honestly, for arcs, just pick a new companion. A new companion you have not met before. And if you follow their chronological stories or just their faces on the box art, go for it. Honestly, they tell their own contained stories, and Hex, oh my god, through Hex, you can basically navigate all of the 7th Doctor's confusing stories. From run-ins with Elder Gods, to the bastard continuity of The Forge. It all comes together and it's all so satisfying. I definitely made my share of mistake purchases back when I was new, but in most cases, in 9 times out of 10, you can just pick up any random story you see on the shelf. Doctor Who, at its heart, was made to be episodic, and Big Finish almost 90% is. Just have a quick look at who's in it and what year it was released. It takes 5 seconds, and can be the difference between enjoying a story and the story kicking your ass for 2 hours. Unlike the TV stuff, the audios never really cross over into bad. Some are mediocre, some don't go anywhere, but they all pay off in some sort of way. The consistency of quality is much higher than in other mediums. So my honest advice is to pick your favourite Doctor, check out those recommendations I listed, and just dive in. At the end of the day, it's formulaic Doctor Who. Doctor Who has a formula. Some of the newer stuff is coming away from the dense continuity, and I think that's a good and a bad thing. The main range had an order to it, and if you listen to it in the wrong order, it would kick your ass. But really, that's like any series. Ever. Thank you for everybody who asked me to make this list. It's mental I didn't make it beforehand. I wish I'd had this video when I started out. Would have saved me from Project Twilight. Fuck that play. My final tip is the real advice. Make sure you're not getting addicted and buying one of these every single week. Oh my god, my bank account!